while this week we don't have a returning name as big as Ken Makui, we also have a returning mangaka. That's because Kyokuto Necromance is written by Fusai Naba, which may not necessarily be a name you recognize, but is a mangaka that debuted in Weekly Shonen Jump a little over 2 years ago with the X titled Aliens Area. Now, I know, X veterans aren't as exciting returns as successful ones, but just because the mangaka failed once, that doesn't necessarily mean that the second manga will be bad. Most mangaka fail their first outing, and that includes some of the most popular Jump mangaka. That includes people like Tirekubo, like Orikoshi, Tabata, Togashi, and even Araki. All of them had first titles that got cut short, but they are still giants of this industry. Which means that I'm always interested in reading manga, even if they are by a mangaka who has failed before, especially in the case of manga like Aliens Area, which despite having a boring first chapter, got progressively better as the manga went on. That said, the thing I thought was more interesting about Aliens Area was the world building, the politics and the slice of life elements of the aliens that inhabit the world. However, I think the problem with Aliens Area is that that was secondary to its main shtick. It was a battle shonen with, honestly, kind of average fights. That makes me worried because Kyokuto Necromance is also a battle shonen, but well, let's just get into it. In this manga we follow Kaoru Ono and Yoji Amane, the two main characters. Kaoru is a student who is living with his sick grandma, and Yoji is a recently viral novelist that seems to be looking for Kaoru for some reason. As he explains, he was a friend of Kaoru's late father, and it was his dying wish for Yoji to protect Kaoru and his grandma, as well as get back the ring that Kaoru got from his father. Yoji also tells Kaoru about some creatures that we got hints of earlier in the chapter. Shiro seems to be the main villains, or at least the main enemy creatures of Kyokuto Necromance. They are invisible and small spirits that are told to bring that to the people whose souls they consume. Despite being creatures that only people that believe in them can see, it seems that Kaoru has the ability to see them, or at least catches a glimpse of them, even before he knows them to be a thing, which is probably something that's going to be explained in the next following chapters. For now, however, the important thing is that Kaoru catches a glimpse of them near his grandma, and so they go to rescue her. When they find her, they realize that she's filled with creatures that, when leaving her body, turn into an hollow or something. It looks like an hollow. And this creature absolutely destroys Kaoru. Like, it's not often that we see main characters get absolutely destroyed in chapter 1, that they just go like, oh yeah, I'm gonna die, but that is exactly what happens here. But eventually Kaoru unlocks an ability through his ring, because of course he does, and it seems to call what looks like a human spirit, at least I can say that it's a human-like creature, but I'm pretty sure it's a spirit, and he imbues Kaoru with some powers that help him punch the head off of this creature. But the creature has regenerative powers. That doesn't really matter because Yoji finally catches to the fight and calls its own spirit, which is a little girl, and they cut this monster into pieces, and the spirit eats what seems to be the soul of the creature. Yoji then explains that he is a necromancer working for an agency, and it seems that Kaoru's father was very much the same. So the chapter ends with Kaoru asking Yoji to join that agency. So, first things first, this first chapter makes my life way easier than Aliens Area first chapter did, because that chapter was so filled with nothing that it was really hard for me to understand the story that I was going to tell and to properly judge that chapter. But Kyokuto's Necromance first chapter does a better job. It explains at least the core rules of the world, introduces to the two main characters and their dynamic, as well as top it all off with a decent fight. The art is also improved a lot. While I always like the style of Aliens Area, I do think Naba has made a lot of improvements in here to make the art just overall a lot cooler, and there's some really amazing spreads and panels scattered through the chapter. However, what I think is going to be the main problem in making this series a success is the genre. This is yet another spiritual exorcist-like battle shonen. It's very rare for a new manga to be in the exact same genre as the manga it's replacing. However, that is exactly what happened this week, with Kyokuto Necromance replacing Shadow Eliminators, another horror-infused manga about two guys trying to kill evil spirits that possess people around them. Now, I know that's just a fun coincidence, but it's a coincidence that I think was likely to happen at some point, because this style and this genre is very popular right now, at least within the magazine. I think the success of Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, and Chainsaw Man I've restricted a little bit the recent generation of manga, as Jump tends to favor manga that blends the genres and styles of at least two or even the three of them. And so we get titles like Bone Collection, Doron Doron, Phantom Seer, News Exorcist, Shadow Eliminators, over and over and over and over again, and that has two main problems. First of all, we're all tired of it, aren't we? Another manga about people destroying evil spirits that may or may not possess people isn't exciting, it's tiresome. Second of all, while some of them still find some success, like News Exorcist somehow, there's going to be a lot of competition in the magazine. Kyokuto Necromance doesn't just have to prove that it's a good manga worth having, it also needs to prove that it's a good battle shonen worth having in favor of all the battle shonens that already have, and also to be a good spiritual exorcist manga that can replace or live alongside titles like Jujutsu Kaisen and News Exorcist, which are already titles that have been established as hits, or at least decent successes that don't need to be replaced. The sad truth is that Kyokuto Necromance isn't worth having in the magazine if it's just good. It needs to be amazing. And the first chapter, it wasn't amazing. That doesn't say that I didn't like the manga. I did. I do. I think the two main characters are really fun, the art is great, and the world has promise. But it's also nothing really new or exciting. I can't say that it was amazing. I can say that it was good, and I want the manga to continue and improve, but right now, it's not good enough, in my opinion, if that makes sense. However, I think there's one saving grace. While not having particularly new ideas, I think Kyokuto Necromancer is pulling from a well of influences that are a little bit older than most manga are. The creatures, down to their design, seem to be influenced by the allos of the first arc of Bleach, an arc that heavily influenced Jujutsu Kaisen's early arcs as well, but that Kyokuto Necromance seems to be embracing even harder. Then the power system, from the little that we've seen, it probably is going to remind people of stands. However, and I may be wrong, but I think it's going to be much closer to the power system of Shaman King. If you don't know, and you should, Shaman King is a Shonen Jump battle shonen from the late 90s that took a lot of influence from stands but made it its own. In Shaman King, people take their powers from the dead, bringing spirits back to life and use them to imbue their powers. From what we've seen from this chapter and the fact that these characters are literally calling themselves necromancers, I do think it's going to be a one-to-one copy from Shaman King, with the spirits that we've seen being literally spirits that are bringing back from the dead by the necromancers to use them for their powers. In that sense, I think Kyokuto Necromance seems to be flying too close to its influences. However, being a fan of both early Bleach and Shaman King, I am excited to see how this mix does and evolves, and if Fusai Naba can actually make new ideas out of them. He was able to craft something unique with Alien's area, so if he can manage to do that with Kyokuto Necromance, then I believe that the manga can be unique enough in the context of the current magazine to warrant its stay. And sure, that it just might be like copium for my part, but I do really want to see this manga continue. Not only did I like it, but the manga is also being lettered by a good friend of mine, Finn K, and being translated by the great David Evelyn, which both of them work together in the retry as well as Mama Yuyu, and I want them to be together in a successful title. And actually, if you want to see an interview that I did with Finn and David back when they started Mama Yuyu, where they talk about some of the behind the scenes of translating simulpubs for Shonen Jump, then that's a video that's going to pop up in the right in just a couple of seconds. And if you want to know my first thoughts on older series in Jump, you can click on the playlist on the left, and if you want to know my first thoughts on future series, consider subscribing. And if you watched it till here, thank you very much, and I'll see you next video.